So the three of us. Heavy sigh. Moving forward. So we all watched Spriggan this week.
Yes, we did.
The 1998 anime movie. Shall we move on?
I mean, I enjoyed a lot of the very kinetic motion
Agreed. Totally.
in the film. Use sort of jumping around things, and of course his major, who is a cyborg tank with a minigun.
Mm-hmm.
So, interesting. I tried to figure out whether they watched Akira and then just tried to wholesale steal the kid from it. Yeah. But it was definitely it was an interesting, entertaining watch.
Well, it feel like they were stealing from Akira. I mean, from the wires going into the thing, the
pasty pale skin.
Yeah, and introducing the numbers, but on the wrong character. But,
yeah.
But you're right in that.
Little kid.
Yeah,
Cosmos 43. I'm not a number.
I'm not a killing machine.
Stab.
And
I wasn't a child soldier killing machine either.
Oops. So your trigger finger just happened to move on itself.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
But but you're right in that the action sequences were good. I mean, they were good. They were fluid, and I enjoyed them for what they were.
Right.
The rest of it could, flush down the toilet and light a match. And that's about it.
Well, it shows the enduring curiosity at Judeo-Christian ideas.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? To have use boss being like, yes, well, the Ark was blah, blah. I'm like, okay, where did you learn that? Where'd you pick that up, buddy?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's, for 2% of the population, there's a great fascination with these ideas.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And by the way, for folks curious, Katsuhiro Otomo, the creator of Akira, was involved on the back end of the production. So he was, I think, like series supervisor or main supervisor or something like that. So like not the director, not the writer, but very much involved. And it shows.
Yeah. The one person who comes up out of the crowd and goes, guys, that's pretty awesome. Let's Akira that up like 10%. Good way.
Let's turn that notch up a little bit.
Yeah, well, just to see if we can get this kind of make the major dude kind of look vaguely like the guy from Akira, who's also like the major dude. Mm-hmm. That'll work great. Yeah. Okay, let's do that.
Yeah, exactly.
But I bet the best voice acting was in this movie, though.
Mm.
From the kid, from the kid, the pasty kid.
Mm-hmm.
Ha 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 ha! I'm God. Ha 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 ha!
Yeah. There was some moments in the voice acting here. It
was like,
I mean, everybody else was pretty okay. Face. That kid was. Yeah, I'm totally on board with that, Steve. Like,
even you was fine, but just. Okay, you're there,
Yeah, I mean,
you check that off your to-do list.
It's not getting an Academy Award or anything, but the kid was a little less enjoyable.
Much less, and there's not much you can do with crazy razor guy, crazy razor line guy. Even there, it was just the entire time. All right,
we get it. You're a Joker wannabe. We get it. All right.
Yeah.
And you guys are right, Lord Admiral. Actually, there was some mixing problems as well, where we were watching the original Japanese sub, and the music and actually the sound effects too sometimes really overwhelmed the dialogue.
Yeah, it made some of their speaking parts like you were like, what? I missed half of what the professor said.
But it turned out none of it mattered. So
yeah, really
right.
Professor and his eternal and slightly conversationally challenged assistant.
Which again, I was waiting for her to pull the wig off and reveal she's the Baroness, and she's planning this all along, and now she's gonna actually use the device to destroy the world or whatever.
So I really thought her moment to shine was when the kid was walking around the console, and I was like going to be like, this is where she either reveals herself. to be an ally or a spy, or she gets horribly murdered by the child.
That's what I was waiting for.
Yeah.
Be like,
Right?
oh, Professor, you want to cooperate with me? There, she's dead. And what do you think of that?
And that's what's so weird. Like, she is there throughout like 2/3 of that movie. Like, she is constantly by his side, like not featured, but like woven throughout all of that stuff. And it just felt like, clearly you spent time on this character. You're including her for a reason. Nope.
No. Yeah. She was like as essential as his lab coat. Like, just so the professor doesn't have to like type anything or like touch the console. He just kind of stands there and goes,
I did learn from this that there were dinosaurs walking the earth 4,000 years ago when Noah's Ark.
Oh, just kill me, just kill me, just kill me. Yeah, when
you
you
know,
pointed
there
it
are-
out, my rational mind just said you didn't hear that, and then you brought it back up in the chat over in the side tube, and I was just like, oh hell, I got nothing. You know, I'm just like,
I didn't want to touch on it, but you know, there are theories that believe that history begins 5,000 years ago, and that there isn't anything before that. And I'm not going to throw a dog into the fight on this. This is not my thing. But so that 4,000 years, that is not entirely out of the realm of possibility, given the Judeo-Christian element that you're throwing into this film.
I will give it the fact that, you know, that is said by, I think, a random soldier. Right, that line.
Well, it's like when they're like, light won't penetrate the doorway, and then they say something about that.
Yeah. So, in fairness, if you have soldiers in the situation presented by Noah's Ark, I can see some of those, you know, saying, okay, you know, Christian creationist mindset, you know, that number comes up. Like, so I'll give them that. Fair enough.
Right.
I can see that being there.
it just hurts my head.
It was just kind of weird to throw in there. But yeah, it's
oh yeah, as if this film wasn't weird enough. Yeah, why would you throw that extra man in?
I know. You know, when you had the dinosaurs coming back to life only to fall apart.
Yeah, just oh boy.
Yeah. So
things that weren't obviously dinosaurs, it's one of the tentacled weird things I went by. I'm like, H.P. Lovecraft, right there.
Cthulhu.
Yeah, pretty much. Like that's one of the old ones with the weird spriggy head and tentacle. Yeah, that's whole thing.
Voidlings.
Yeah.
Nigons. There we are.
So I was having a metaphysical moment in my mind of like going, okay, I'm watching this. Last week was Dead Leaves. This or Poop Bags, which was better?
Oh boy.
Here's where I got angry. Not angry, but really, really frustrated. Because I'll be honest, this starts out as Indiana Jones action adventure movie kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Indiana Jones, James Bond, and G.I. Joe like had like some kind of crazy three-way bastard child. And here's Spriggan.
That's exactly what that is. And then you get the whole weird Noah's Ark storyline, and I'm like, okay, this is very much, and again, late 90s Evangelion, all sorts of different things. Okay, we're going to kind of throw some weird mysticism in there. Very common trope. So you move in that direction, and then you have, again, Akira, villain, all of these sort of things woven out. What really angered me was when, spoiler alert, Akira Kid is being swallowed up by Noah's Ark and says, "We found out there are many more of these all over the world, which we're going to go and get. And so I'll see you again in all of these other things all over the world where you're going to have to travel to all these other different sites."
Buy the manga. See the sequel.
Right.
Like,
yeah, and it's like, you do not set up the beginning of a franchise in this movie. There's nothing about this movie that feels like a franchise. It's what?
And I love that crescendo music at the end as they're pulling away from the earth. It's just like, Well, that was lame.
Well, I was waiting for the Earth to explode. I'm like,
Yeah,
something.
right.
Or you pull away and there's like a giant orbiting something. Like maybe you see the moon and you're like, oh, that's just the moon. And then on the backside, you see the giant dais with the triangle connector point, and it's glowing. You're like, oh no.
It may be making an ominous noise of like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Exactly, yep.
But no, we just got the Earth.
Or the ominous noise of like, oh no, he's in that other dimension somehow.
And so how did this little
Gremlin,
whatever his name is, how did this little child get to be a colonel?
Yeah.
Murder.
I mean, if you're gonna have godlike murder, yeah, probably.
The Pentagon, apparently the United States and the U.S. Machine Corps. Oh, really? Couldn't say Marine. You had to say machine. Fine. But apparently we're so evil that we'll promote children to be colonels.
Yeah. This movie is very problematic in its treatment of America. Let's just be honest.
Slightly. The dude in the Pentagon is like, we got this all under control. They start zooming across his shoulder to the American flag. I'm like, what is the treatment on this?
Yeah.
Like,
there's the brainwashed them in the interest of our nation.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
Yeah. And one of the problems with it too is that, and one of the views pointed out that the issue is they could have been Russians, and it would be the exact same story. They could have been the Chinese, would have been the exact same story, right? Like there's no interesting political point being made. It's just demonizing, and that's what's frustrating.
They could have made the entirety of the organization Spectre.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. You know, Spectre is transnational. It doesn't have any particular thing. It's got contacts in the various places, but that works.
Mm-hmm.
You see, like in Ghost in the Shell in the series, they make Americans to be the bad guys, but they don't make them to be like the twirling the mustache bad guys. Mm-hmm. It's in there. It's a political rival on world stage.
Yeah, exactly.
In that show, so that kind of makes sense for the Americans to be your competitor enemy in that sense. Mm-hmm. And this one, it literally is just like going, oh, okay, we're just going to tie. I mean, I was waiting for like the scene where Pasty Kid has the damsel in distress tied to the railroad track. Give me the little triangle thing, or else she gets run over by a train. Right?
Well, that's what I thought the lab assistant girl was for.
Well, right.
It was like, that's the perfect hostage. Be like, oh, Professor, here comes the train, the 5:30 express. Hurry up, make a decision. Like,
yeah, that was bad writing. But then, granted, like I was trying to understand the physics of all of this, and this is clearly a story in which it's, how awesome can we make the hero look? And then how much can we beat up the hero and make you feel bad for him? And then have him show up at the end and save the day.
How much can we mangle his body like a chew toy for a dog?
Yeah, how'd that muscle suit work out? Like, boom, boom, and then you still get your arm like twisted around. Like, really? And you have like a like some kind of odd football helmet thing. I don't even know what the heck that was supposed to do. Like, you used your knife like twice.
You also
Major and the kid. That was the only 2 times you used this crazy knife.
You also have the problem that, like, was it Lord Fat Man, whatever his name, General Fat Man, whatever. The Wolf Brigade guy.
Yeah, Fat Man and Little Boy. Little Boy was the crazy guy with the mechanical arms, and then Major fat dude was the machine gun guy.
And by the way, thinly veiled references to nuclear weapons. Fat Man, Little Boy.
Yeah. Yep.
Are you telling me somebody was salty about something and they decided to do this in this show?
Maybe. There's a moment where, and we'll get to killing the kid.
Wow.
There's a moment where.
Oh my!
Take that out of context. We'll get to the moment where we kill the kid.
There's going to be a video edit of this where it's going to be like, we'll get to killing the kid in a second. Be like, ow. Weekly Dig gets dark.
So he's kind of introduced in a very absurd way, and then he starts walking towards the line of folks with machine guns. Later on, you see him go up against you, and when you shoots at him, he throws up his arm, right, to hide his face, because he's heavily armed everywhere except in his face, and that's clearly a problem. He's walking forward towards like 10 guys with machine guns, just like this, just walking, smiling, and then shoots, and they're picking all over the place, and he is apparently completely unable to be hit in his face in that moment.
Yeah.
Again, if they want to establish these things about this world and these characters, have him, do this as he's firing or whatever. But they just completely ignore it for the awesomeness of the moment.
Yeah, you don't even get a phew or a phew, like, oh, ha, 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 ha.
Right. Yeah. I mean, personally speaking, myself, if I were to shoot and try and kill somebody and I shot them in the chest and they just laughed, I'd be like, a little bit up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Go for the part that looks like skin, not the metal part. I think they did do a fairly decent job, though, on the other end of it. Like, it's you're right that somebody didn't think about the guys with the 9mm and other sort of small arms towards him.
Yeah.
But from his perspective towards them, in a lot of anime, you get somebody who hides behind a barrel or a crate or something, or a lump of rock, and it's just like, oh, that completely deflects while they're thinking about things. No, this dude opens up, and it just goes through crates and barrels and rock, and it just levels everything. And it's like, okay, why did you think about from him to them and not them to him?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, it's an interesting physics lesson that's sort of like, oh, just suspend the physics line about right there.
That was the weird thing. You also had the difficulty that as awesome as the action animation is, there's a lot of I'm trying to think of the term for it, but basically where I'll call it action interruptus, where you have cool action things happening, but you don't actually get the payoff of the hero like punching the bad guy, right, or whatever.
Right.
It's you getting the snot kicked out of him, and then the bad guy, moves on and maybe gets hurt, but then comes back, or maybe something else. You don't. I didn't feel a lot of payoff from a lot of those action sequences.
Right.
I enjoyed them at the time, but I wish I'd had a little bit more at the end of that.
Well, I mean, it's towards the end when Pasty Kid was inside the arch, just throwing him around like a rag doll with his mind, and it was, I think it was like 3 times. Here you stop. Oh, you're finally dead.
Yeah, I'll go back to wrecking the world.
And he turns around, and the weird sounds of like they were trying to. Okay, I wasn't trying to focus on this, but when you is like spitting up the blood, right? The sound effects guy was just like, pitcher of water, because that's what it sounded like.
Yeah, it did.
And so you gets up, is mangled again. Kid does a thing again. Pasty Kid does a thing again, and it just happened like 3 times. And you're just like, okay, we get it.
Yep.
Can we just kill? I mean, at this point, we're all just like, we all know how this is going to end. Just kill the Pasty Kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Kill the evil person.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, but I'm not a killing machine.
So you drove the knife right through the middle of him.
And that's the thing. And
and you're right, Brent, there's absolutely no payoff. It's like you could have just slapped him because it affected him the same way. It's not like, oh, Rosebud. No.
Right.
It's like, oh, whisper, whisper, whisper. Ha-ha, I'll see you in the 3rd dimension. It's like, well, that was useless.
And that's the frustrating.
Does your knife bend around vital organs or something?
That would have been an amazing moment if you saw that thing happening and then you see like his fist in the kid's stomach. Yeah. Right? And there's all this stuff and he's like, no, I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to disable you because that's not who I am. But no, he drives that knife square into that kid's chest. To
the point where it comes out the other side. I mean, it's not even like a glancing blow off his ribs, and it just was subdermal. It wasn't like, cavity penetrating. No, it was like full on out the other side.
Yep.
That he'd be like severed spine kind of like out the other side.
Yeah. So that was, and again, and one of the reasons I'm being so I'm being so focused on this is, again, it's Katsuhiro Otomo. It's people who are clearly putting thought and effort into this,
right,
and clearly put thought and effort into various scenes, but it feels like they just didn't go all the way.
Well, I liked what they did with the fight in the souk in Istanbul.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That I thought just the kinetic energy of that and the mobility that they were displaying, used jumping over crates and stuff, and just the physicality was just like, wow, you mapped this out great. Yeah. You know, throwing the carpet at the guy, then hitting him with a hookah. or a metal vase or something like that. It's like, wow, you did that really, really well. Yeah. And yet that you didn't deliver that same payoff when you're fighting Pasty Kid.
And I remember thinking during that scene, one of my big frustrations in chase scenes like that is the hero never picks up a weapon. You know, they see a lot of Jackie Chan movies where Jackie Chan just doesn't do that. And so they do that trope of just know it's always going to be this kind of thing. And you would definitely pick up guns. But in that sequence, he doesn't have time. Right. And they make it very clear that he is running. He's trying to escape. You know, this guy, he throws the carpet just as somebody comes around the corner. Gotta go to the next place. Right. So it really feels like a really effective sequence. And then when he does get weapons, like, he uses them.
Right. But here was my thing that I actually, like, drove the little cursor back just to try and watch it again, was in that scene where he's running from the rooftops, and towards the end of it where he throws the top half of the sword. Yeah. I totally could not follow the action that made the sword break.
Yeah.
It was off screen when he goes like that, I think. Yeah. And you kind of get a sense that he snapped it as he's holding it, but it's almost wholly off screen.
It is.
There's absolutely. You don't see that happen.
Yeah. And I had the exact reactions. Oh, it's snapped. Okay. I guess he must have snapped it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, because I can do this too. I can throw it across town, like you know, I could hit somebody in the Inner Harbor from here. Sure, I want to.
Yeah. And it's not going to slice through the air because you kind of wicked it in a certain way that it's going to kind of arc.
Right. And there's no curvature of the earth, and you know,
no windage, nothing like that.
Would have been nice if he could have used those in later fights. You know, just take a dagger or something and just take somebody out from, you know,
hell, a rock.
His Ericlium knife thing there. I mean, like, huzzah!
No payoff. And this is an 11-volume manga. It is very clear to me that they picked the awesome moments from like volumes 1 through 3.
The highlight reel.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, okay, we have this great drive from, you know, this beginning great action sequence, and then we build the Noah's Ark thing, and we have the big climax in the Noah's Ark. And that, you know, at the high level works, but it feels like volumes 1 through 3 of 11. But also trying to be a big action movie. And actually, folks mentioned in the chat, it's frustrating, not frustrating, but they did a really good job on the cinematography of making this feel like a big movie.
Yes.
So it did feel weird to be like, great, huge, big Hollywood ending. Ha 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 ha. I will see you next time.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. And so the first part of the movie, I knew that we were not in for a great ride after like the first 10 minutes or so, but then I was kind of hoping that it wouldn't go in the direction it went. But it was confirmed when he's sitting in the car after they touch down, right? And he's in the car, and you know, he's sitting next to the guy. His weapons have been confiscated, and the guy's supposed to be his friend, and he turns out to be a double agent, you know, he's betrayed or whatever. And you know, it's just like going, you know, okay, no, I didn't see that coming a mile away. But the reaction that you had in that when he was just like like that, I was like, yeah, that's the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Another guy I'm just gonna have to kill. But I don't kill people.
And that was one of those, you know, the James Bondy tropey kind of things. They're in like a Toyota Land Cruiser, and they've gone to great effort to make sure that it looks like a Toyota Land Cruiser. I mean, good job on that.
Yeah.
And they look in the rearview mirror, and there is somebody in like a 1955 Studebaker.
That's right.
I'm like, Is Goldfinger driving it? Is Oddjob in the side seat? What the hell is this? Like, oh no, it couldn't possibly be any of the other number of modern cars. No, it's a black 1950s sedan with the goons in it. I'm like, oh please, really?
Strange, really weird.
I mean, we could get the whole idea of what's going on, and you didn't. You could have done it in such a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, and it doesn't help. It is just very shonen-y, right? Like, Yu is a very shonen hero, in all the ways.
Hair.
Yeah.
All the way to the hair.
Exactly. And so, to be clear, I'm not saying being a shonen hero is bad. But when you take a shonen hero, put it into an hour-and-a-half movie, there's not much to do with that trope, right? One of the cool things about shonen is seeing how that shonen hero evolves over time, seeing how they deal with all sorts of different things. But
his good friend, who we have no idea who the hell he's a good friend, blows himself up to send a message. Like,
okay, so here's what I was confused.
Who is this dude, and why are you in a high school class? Oh, you're 17. Well, thank you for telling me later.
Yeah.
Well, and this is where I was like, okay, here's Full Metal Panic, and and the guy's sitting there, and they're like, you fall asleep in class after you've been gone for several weeks, and it's just like, like here's the exposition to explain
exactly,
the thing. And you see
after we saw you take it away in that mysterious van that was unmarked, but mysteriously probably was a government vehicle, and then you were gone for
and that then the kid, the friend who's like looking at them like all weird, and the way that they described the kid's plight is, oh yeah, he disappeared with his parents a while ago, and the police were investigating him. Now he's back. Mm-hmm. And you're just and the kid's explaining, and the glasses explaining, and he's smiling. Why are you smiling?
Yeah.
This is, you should be showing concern. You're going, oh man, his parents are gone. We don't know what's going on with he's so stressed. He goes, and he looks worn out. It's like, no, that worn out is not the expression you're using here. Yeah, this is the expression you use.
And when you work for like an international agency that runs across the bad guy agencies all the time, wouldn't the first thing out of you'd think of would be like, disappears, parents gone, comes back, looks stressed. I bet they are getting at him. So they can get it at, what is it, Arkham? Or
I think
Arkham, Arcam.
Arkham. Yeah.
Arkham. To get at my group. I'd be immediately suspicious as opposed to go to the rooftop and be like, no. I'd be like, hell no. I'm in the cafeteria having yakisoba pan while you're blowing yourself up. See you, dude.
Yeah, so it just pulls it, open up, and you're gonna die. You're gonna die, and it's just like, going, no, I'm not. I'm running that way, dude. You're effed.
Yeah.
I'm going back into the stairwell, and I'm gonna lock the door to the roof.
I did feel sorry for that character. Honest to God, I did feel. Right, actually felt bad for that character.
Yes,
like
absolutely.
Nobody else I felt bad for. I felt bad for that one character because he was the only genuine actor character in this thing, where it's just like his plot arc lasted all of less than 180 seconds, but it was like,
yep,
poor guy. Oh, really poor guy.
Yeah, he did a really good job of establishing that and making you feel like, wow, like he got the short end of that stick, and that is a tragedy.
Yeah, I mean, obviously everything that happened to this kid, like, he just went to pieces.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And sorry. The thing about it,
and that's the best part of the movie that we're talking about.
And the other problem is that, again, you have this weird thing where they want to present you as this kind of normal kid. Again, sort of showing a protagonist. And it's like, he's seen a lot and he clearly knows the score. So if he sees this person, and you mentioned Full Metal Panic, right? How would Sosuke react in that situation? We all know how Sosuke would react in that situation.
He'd probably shoot him in the head. Exactly. You're trained for this kind of stuff. I mean, This is not suddenly you wake up and you're like, oh, hey, now it's a new day. What's going on? I don't remember anything.
That's the thing. And Lord Adams pointing out in the chat, you have to make concessions to plot acceleration. And that's the problem, is that I think they chose a plot that doesn't work in that kind of compression. in a movie. Because we don't know who these characters are, because we don't know the relationship, you don't really understand that. So here's the thing. Again, if I were doing this, that would be a random person in the class. I don't know this person, but they invited me up. I'm suspicious. It's weird, but I don't know who that person is, so I don't know what's going on with them. So I'm approaching cautiously. This thing happens. Oh my gosh, they're pulling random people out of my school to attack me. Totally works. But that just doesn't. And again, you got to adapt. Yeah.
Which I mean, if you were to take this and run it the some kind of same way with any other show and make that person anonymous, it would have been a random girl in his class that would invite him to the roof, and he would be like, "Oh, okay, maybe maybe it's a confession. I don't know what's going on." Boom, she blows herself up. Yeah. So it's like, to drop that. Oh, you blew my friend up. It's like, dude, to all of us, he looks like just some dude who was sitting in the front of the class. You don't even know the guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's weird, and yet it's a very visually entertaining movie, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's tons of stuff going on, gorgeous animation. Again, feels big, feels like this epic story being told. So I was never bored, right? There was no point in it where I was like, okay, this is dumb. I'm just going to turn away. It's like, wow, that was a dumb choice. What's next, right? Just bizarre, not dumb choices, but really ineffective choices, but still an entertaining romp all the way through. They did that.
Well, it's another one. If you just disconnect your logic circuit and just let it happen, it's like, the snow cat going careening down the hill, and John is trying to kill the guy, and he gets run over, but he's not dead, and oh, geez, what action. What great. Does it make any sense? Absolutely not. But it's fantastic action.
Yeah. Jean is MVP, by the way.
Hell yeah.
Oh, man. More Jean, please.
He makes you look like a rank amateur. I mean, if it were for the super suit, you would be most of the time dead in half these situations. But no, Jean is just like your average dude, and he survives it all.
Yeah. Jean is James Bond, but he's not the main character. It's kind of interesting, which is funny.
CGI, talk about a good introduction that you just don't follow through. Yeah,
well, that's
damn it.
The other interesting thing, and again, this is one of those things where I think was probably dealt with more in the manga, and fine. It looks like he has kind of short range teleportation abilities, because when you first introduce him to him, he shoots and he's kind of gone, right, and he's just kind of bouncing all around. He doesn't use that in other scenes. I assume it's one of those things where he has to be calm, focused to be able to do that. When he's being thrown all over the place, he kind of can't really focus enough to do teleportation. Right. That felt again, something that I didn't miss, but was a bit of a missed opportunity. Where it would have been nice to see a bit more of that. But again, there's only so much space for that kind of stuff.
Right.
And Spriggan never existed in an anime series.
Not as far as I know, until soon. Because there is a 2021 Netflix Spriggan anime series coming.
So we might actually get to see them develop the characters in the pacing that we need to understand and give a crap about what the hell's happening.
Yeah.
It's 9:30, so I can say crap in hell. So
okay, Charming Sketch is asking in the chat room, was CGI used in this film? Absolutely. Although not quite what you'd expect. Early on in the scene, there's a moment where they zoom in on basically a green CGI rendering of the arc, and so it's like a scan of the arc basically that the camera's kind of zooming through. Definitely CGI. And then there's one shot where there's landscape moving towards you, and it's clearly a 3D plane with a texture on top of it that is moving towards you. So everything else is CGI, but it's just we're using this 3D to kind of make things move a little bit. So there was a little bit of CGI. So Spriggan is famous for being the last anime film, certainly maybe work of anime, in which there is nothing digital in the animation production pipeline. They have CGI shots for that kind of stuff and CGI for some of those extras, but it is entirely hand drawn, hand colored, hand edited, all that kind of stuff all the way through. But yeah, little bits of CGI in there, because that's kind of how things happen. Oh, and then when Noah's Ark is disappearing, I'm pretty sure that's a CGI model.
Rumbling.
Yeah, it really looks like a CGI model.
Yeah.
Kind of
right
in that space, which is fine. Yeah, it's interesting. So I want to talk about that actually real quick before we finish up. I was really thinking about the amount of effort it takes to do hand-drawn animation. All those drawings. And I was looking at the cars. And I realized, other than the shots where they crash, there's not a single shot I can think of a car in this that looked better hand-drawn than a modern CGI cel-shaded car. It's different. It's visually distinctive.
Right.
But I can't think of a thing where, boy, I'm glad that they had to hand draw that car in every detail as it's spinning. A CGI car, I think, would have worked just fine with the same frame rate.
I don't know. Well, car. Take the snowcat. Like I said, the snowcat last scene. I liked the softness of the hand drawn versus sometimes. It's better. It's getting better and better as time goes on. But sometimes you have an odd hardness of the CGI trying to interact with the tumbling, the sliding through the snow thing.
I completely agree.
So this had it felt integrated entirely versus something that's been inserted into something going on.
I completely agree. And I think the snowcat's a great example of where there is so much interaction between the snowcat and the environment, and it is like being hit by bullets and so forth and so on, and so you're seeing little deformations on things.
Yeah, track doing the wobble as it comes apart.
Yeah, where I think hand-drawn totally works because, again, so many different things of that are moving, having it all in CGI, you're tweaking all the CGI every frame anyway, so it's like, I think a lot of the vehicles, other than that, it's like, I don't think hand-drawing that actually bought you much.
Yeah.
Turns out.
All the vehicles moving around the Ark with all the overlaid, which, by the way, this is a big project, obviously.
Yep.
Who the hell builds multi-layer highways in the Ark chamber? I mean, this is like a super highway around Tokyo. I'm like, what the hell is going on with all this stuff?
Actually,
but you don't,
honest to
you
God,
don't really need too much CGI for that, and because you're not close enough to a lot of it to make much of a difference.
When they showed the shot for the first time of all those different highway-looking things inside of the excavation site, and I was looking at it, I was like, "Oh, that's $4.95. That's the salad bowl, $4.95."
Could be the big dig in Boston. Who knows?
Right. Yeah. It's like, it looks like a mess. So there you go.
Pretty much.
But I mean, it's like the time it took to make that was as much time as it took to excavate the space. You're like, wow, guys, good job. You're really using those resources well. But again, the hand drawn versus CGI, you wouldn't have told. You couldn't have told because they're little things moving around.
Yeah. So it's fascinating. Thinking about those things where it's like, I'm sure if you told the staff, hey, you could CGI animate this thing and not have to hand draw it for like 6 months, they'd be like, oh, thank God.
Right.
A tablet and a stylus, and we don't have to do this stupid flipping things back and forth all the. Oh hell yeah!
Yeah.
This will ease my carpal tunnel so much.
Right. And you can focus on the character animation and all the great action stuff and make that look more awesome. So.
Or focus on the story.
Or that.
Hey, there's that. Oh yeah.
Be kind of nice.
That thing.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of basic framework. The reason why we're all here. Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Kind of weird. But
they did it for the pasty kid.
Because we didn't get enough Akira, so we just needed one more jolt of the pasty kids. I am Tetsuo. Oh, hey, now we know what's going on.
There we go.
Yep. I am
including
America.
including the fade into a sort of crazy debris-filled white hole in space. There's Tetsuo going off to his great reward.
Spoilers. Any other thoughts on Spriggan before we move on?
Thank you for having us watch it.
You're welcome.
And I say that kind of like I didn't get what I was hoping out of a story for it, but again, like you said, I enjoyed the ride.
Yeah.
I wasn't like deeply gripped by it. I'm not going to go research the manga now, but I was not bored, and I didn't sort of get up and go, gosh, I wonder if there's a way I could do something like, shave a corn off my foot or pull out one of my fingernails. So it's like, there we go.
Yeah, I'm totally with that. Totally with you on that one. And I'm with you, Laura. I would rewatch Spriggan for the animation. The animation
I think that's fair.
would hold up.
That's fair.
Yeah. But doesn't all work out all the time.